Okay, question number 2. Why is it that people associate feelers with being highly sensitive people when it is not always the case? Is it really true that most INF types are highly sensitive people or HSP? First of all, for the second question, I don't know if it's really true that most INF types are highly sensitive people. I think that it's a very personal experience. And I know plenty of INF types who are not highly sensitive people. A lot. So if I had to look at the INF types that I know, so we're looking at several thousand people, out of that, it's probably around 60% that are highly sensitive. But of course, there's like a scale to that as well. So, you know, you might be highly sensitive when you're extremely tired or when you're in pain. Whereas, you know, when you're not, you might have a really high tolerance for you know, stimulus, you know, noises or whatever. What's interesting also is that everybody as an individual person is sensitive to certain things and not sensitive to others. Those of you who've had kids, you know what I'm talking about. So, you know, you can sleep through something rummaging in the back garden, but if your child makes a noise or seems like they're unsettled, you know, you're sensitive to that. So it's not really a black and white. I really appreciate this question, but we have to remember that just like every person on the planet is unique, they are unique in this way as well. So depending on how well they are, how well they're feeling, you know, what's going on in their lives, are they stressed? Like, for example, I've noticed with all these losses this year, and now there's this threat of bushfire, losing our home, losing our lives. I'm tired, but I have a higher tolerance for certain sounds and then lower tolerance for others. So, for example, I have an app on my phone which shows me when the fires start to get closer to the house. And when that notification sound goes off, I'm straight away, you know, jumping out of my chair to go and have a look at what's going on there. So I would say to you that if you observe yourself, so become an observer rather than the kind of the victim of your circle. I'm not saying you're a victim, but like, instead of feeling like you're at the receiving end of your life, instead of everything's about you, try and kind of elevate above a little bit and kind of observe yourself, become an observer of what's going on in your life. So when you catch yourself like having a reaction to something, ask yourself, hey, you know, what's going on here? Why did I react to that? What does it mean to me? And then you'll start to follow like little paths of sensitivity, and you start recognizing that you are in fact more sensitive to certain things that you associate with certain things, and less sensitive maybe with others. So I would like to challenge you to do that. Now, your first question was, why is it that people associate feelers with being highly sensitive people when it's not always the case? Generally, people do that because they associate emotions with sensitivity. And I know a lot of thinkers who are so much more sensitive than a lot of the feelers that I know. And this may seem like semantics to people who are maybe quite sensory, that don't want to have like these intuitive conversations. But what I would say is that, you know, when you're a feeler, as opposed to when you're a thinker, that's not the big change. That's not the big determination in this high level of sensitivity. I feel it's the intuitive people are more highly sensitive generally to things than the sensory people, at least in ways of stress and anticipating stress and anxiety. Because sensory people, you know, they love the sensory experience. They love the sensory input, the stimulation. And so I'm wondering if it's less about the feeler thinker space and more about how you collect information, which of course is the intuitive sensory space. So why is it that people associate feelers with highly sensitive people? It's because they maybe haven't made the differentiation between emotions and being sensitive. They believe, I would guess that they believe that that's the kind of the determining factor, that they're the same thing. So that's what I reckon. But if you have any other insights on that, please pop them into the comment section.